Processing an overwhelming amount of advice is such an important skill as a teacher. I want to just share some examples of common suggestions that seem positive but can have a toxic element to them. Or put another way, this is good advice that is actually secretly bad advice. One way that good advice can actually be bad advice is if it's so general and generic that, first of all, it doesn't contain much substance. But then second of all, it's almost like insulting to the person that this is the advice you seem to feel they need. Some examples of this might be set high expectations for students or be organized. Absolutely, you should follow both of these pieces of advice. They're certainly basically true statements. But if someone is struggling with a specific teaching issue in their classroom, the chance that what they need to hear is be organized or set high expectations for your students is very unlikely. It's almost like a suggestion that you haven't had any training in the field of teaching. Another advice pitfall that can make something bad advice, even though it sounds good, is if it has hours of hidden steps. Some examples of that might be, why don't you set up a classroom website? Or here's a list of child psychology books that you should read. The problem with a secretly work-heavy tip is that it ends up on a to-do list that you just cannot motivate yourself to get started on, and it just makes you feel inadequate. Like, why haven't I started this classroom website yet? Well, you haven't started it because you don't even know what program you would use to make a website, and you know there's going to be troubleshooting involved, and you forgot your password for something that you're going to need to do this website. And there's so many little steps that it really isn't one to-do list item. It is really a longer project. And if you can at least recognize it as that, you'll put it in its proper place, which is maybe on a list of things that you might want to consider working on over the summer, and you also might want to consider not doing. Another thing you want to be careful of is when a teacher shares a really dramatic story of one of their big classroom wins, but doesn't give the little micro details that might help you apply it in your classroom. If someone is just telling a story like this to entertain an audience, these details aren't important, and in fact, they kind of make the story less fun to tell. But if the listener is a teacher who's hoping to mine these stories for teaching strategies, it can backfire tremendously. I'm going to be sharing a video where I talk about that in more detail, and you'll find that as part of the Good and Bad Advice playlist linked below this video. But basically, if someone is describing a daring and cinematic move that worked out in their classroom, think twice before assuming it will work out in your classroom. Another thing worth mentioning is that good advice might tell teachers that it's okay to slow down, but it never tells them it's okay to stop trying to be a better teacher. So even if you see that a colleague is overwhelmed or that someone needs a little bit of reassurance that they're not a complete fail as a teacher, you never want to say something like, well, if you can just keep these kids quiet, it's fine. You never want to give the impression that it is okay for students not to be learning at all, or that they are unteachable, because otherwise, why is the person here? Also, in general, I'm very suspicious of rhyming expressions. Like, if you can conceive it, they can achieve it. I mean, that does rhyme. I don't know if it's true. I have my questions. I have my doubts. Rhyming phrases may sound nice, but that doesn't make them real advice. To recap, there are a lot of different ways that seemingly good advice can be anywhere from dangerous to just not that helpful, or sometimes it can be a perfectly good, well-meaning comment or piece of advice that you just don't need right now. So how do you know if the teaching advice you're getting is good? There are 3 things that can definitely help. First is try to visualize putting this advice into practice. Try to actually picture it in your mind. And if there are details you can't picture, ask follow-up questions. So if somebody tells you, start a website, Say, okay, what website company do you use? And how long did that take you to set up? How many students use this website? What do you put on there? How many hours a week do you spend updating it? As you ask these questions, a clearer picture will start to emerge. And what you may realize is this person put up a website at the beginning of the year and hasn't updated it in months. Or maybe this person just started the process of setting up a website and they have no idea if it's going to work out yet. They're just excited about it and that's why they're sharing it. Or maybe they have a site, but it just has very minimal detail and doesn't require much updating. Maybe it's just one paragraph plus their email, which is fine, but was definitely not the level of commitment you were picturing if you ran out and decided to take this advice. And then you don't have to tell the person if this advice isn't for you. Just say, thank you, that was very helpful. I'm going to consider that. And then you think about whether this advice is for you or not. The next tip for handling teaching advice is you want to seek out unofficial mentors and try to ask more than one person the same question. The mentor teacher assigned by your principal should not be the only other teacher you're turning to for help. Even if they're good, even if they're great, you want to ask casual questions from teachers that teach the same grade level, the same age of kids. You want to just constantly be taking in information. And not only will that help you kind of get a second opinion on the advice you're getting, but over time, you'll realize that there are a few people out there that you really, really enjoy talking to about teaching that make you better, that make you feel better, and that you really do trust their opinion. And even then, you need more than one of them because sometimes those people are unavailable or tired. And the final tip is just to listen to your gut. If somebody says something that just absolutely gives you stomach cramps or makes you not want to get up on Monday morning or just makes you not be able to sleep on Sunday night, this is either not the person you want to talk to or not the type of advice you need right now. Just pay attention to your own emotional reaction to some of this advice. Processing an overwhelming amount of advice is such an important skill as a teacher. It's actually one of the 6 courses within the Maintain and Stay Sane program. There's a course called Processing Advice, Information, and Super important information. Because often among the overwhelming amount of information you're getting is this sense that it's all super important. And there are definitely ways of sifting through that and getting rid of some of that overwhelm. You will find information about that in the description below this video, and you'll also find a link to a playlist that contains more topics like this. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.